So what I want to talk about tonight is some practical things related to meditation. It's not like tips, more like just here's some ideas that you might find beneficial in terms of sort of thinking about or understanding meditation, maybe in a little different way, your own meditation practice. I got a few points I want to make. I don't think any one of them is probably enough to merit a whole talk just about each one. I think I can connect them all together. I think I can make this kind of coherent. There's a really interesting quote I'm going to use from maybe an unexpected source that I think can tie all this together. I think I want to talk about. You might know who Leonard Cohen is. He was a poet. He was a songwriter. He was a singer. He became really well known in the kind of the folky scene in the late 60s. He's probably most well known these days for a song that he wrote entitled Hallelujah, which has been re-recorded by just dozens and dozens of different singers. He recorded it in the 80s, but a bunch of other people have recorded it over the years. Katie Lang's is my favorite. That's neither here nor there and completely irrelevant. But anyway, Katie Lang's is my favorite one. I like her version better than his. What a lot of people don't know about Cohen, though, is that his last name is Cohen, probably no big surprise. He was the descendant of Lithuanian Jews. He had a grandfather who was a rabbi, a Jewish rabbi. But in middle age, he started studying Zen. He became a formal student in a Japanese Rinzai Zen lineage. And he was actually ordained as a priest in 1996 on top of Mount Baldy in California. So that in the quote I'm about to use from Cohen, that's the reason why he uses the Japanese word for formal seated meditation, which is zazen. That's the Japanese term for what we were just doing, zazen. So this is the quote from Cohen. Meditation is not what you think it is. You sit in absolute silence and your mind starts rewatching all your movies. During this process, you become so familiar with the scripts you keep in your life that you end up getting sick of them. Then you realize that the person you think you are is nothing more than a complicated script you spend most of your energy on. After a closer examination, you discover that your personality has fed up of you. And that's why it's not you. If you feel intimidated enough by this personality, spontaneously allow it to fade away. And then, if you're lucky, you can experiment with yourself without the distortion of this personality. That, in essence, is the process of Zazen. Now, the first part of that quote, if you think about your own meditation process, if you think about your own meditation experience in the context of the first part of that quote, it might make you feel like you're not a very good meditator. It might sound like we're describing somebody who's a bad meditator, right? You sit in absolute silence and your mind starts rewatching all your movies. Now you might be thinking, well, that's not what you're supposed to do, right? That's not right. That's not what you should be thinking about. That's not what I should be thinking about. I'm not supposed to be thinking about anything. Therefore, I'm a lousy meditator. But it actually doesn't mean that at all. The goal here, understanding your own mind, that's the goal of meditation, right? That's the ultimate goal of what we're trying to accomplish as we conceptualize it, as we understand it in Buddhism, especially in the kind of Buddhist practice that we do here, in the whole Chan, Zen, San kind of part of the family of Buddhism. So it's true, you're not supposed to watch your own movies, but you are supposed to watch your mind watch the movies. You see the distinction I'm making there? What is this mind that's having this experience, right? Go back to last week, right? Last week we were talking about Konga meditation. That's the Hwadu, right? That's the most common used Hwadu in Korean sun meditation, right? What is this? Watch the mind, watch the movie. And what you'll realize is that you realize the truth of what Andrew Hollick wrote in the spring issue of Buddha Dharma magazine. There's a little quote from there. We're all thought junkies hooked on the movies in our mind. Right? That's what life is like for most of us most of the time. So the idea in meditation is not to watch those movies, but to observe the observer, right? Watch yourself watch the movies. And by doing that, you understand, I'm getting it. I'm understanding my own mind. I'm getting insight into how my own mind works. So that's the lesson. That's the insight that we're trying to grasp here. Our mind has habits, right? The mind is like a 4-year-old who wants to watch the same Disney movie over and over again every day, right? That Frozen, something like that, right? Same movie every day, wants to watch the same movie every day. We can get really frustrated about that. We can get ticked off at ourselves. We can get disappointed in ourselves. Here we go again, same old movie, as they say, same shit, different day, right? Or we can have some compassion toward ourselves. Ah, yes, right? Here you are, my friend, the regular movie. Here you are again. I see you there. I bow to you. Thank you for the lesson about my own mind, right? About how my own mind works. So now the next sentence in the Cohen quote. During this process, you become so familiar with the scripts you keep in your life that you end up getting sick of them, right? When you realize that the movie is simply uninteresting, then it just becomes like background noise, right? It's there, but it's not interesting. It's not worth paying attention to. It's like traffic sounds from outside, right? There it is, noted, but don't engage, right? It's just on in the background. It's noise in the house. Acknowledge it, let it go, right? It's like the movie just becomes like a ticking clock, right? It's just, you just sort of compress it over to the edge of your awareness, and then all that space opens up in the middle, where there's room for a level of clarity there, for some understanding to break through, for that satori, that understanding experience can actually happen. Now, that's not going to happen real fast, right? That's not going to happen quickly. If you go back to the way Cohen said it, right? One 15-minute meditation session like we just did is not enough time and opportunity to get fed up of you, as he put it. That's an interesting expression, I think, to get fed up of yourself. So this brings us to another thing that if you're hard on yourself might feel like you're a failure as a meditator, right? You may experience meditation as being boring. Really boring sometimes, maybe. And you may think that you shouldn't find it boring. And once again, that may make you think that you're a lousy meditator. Because if I were really serious about this, or if I were really good at it, it wouldn't just be so boring. Well, here's the truth, though. When you first start meditating, it's novel, right? And so, oh, this is weird and unique, and right. But if you've gotten to a point where you're finding meditation boring, that actually means it's working, right? Think about what boredom is. What is boredom? What does it mean to be bored? We're back to the 4-year-old again, right? The 4-year-old inside your head. When you're on your cushion and you start to feel bored, that's your internal 4-year-old whining for entertainment, right? Whining for a distraction. I don't want to meet myself. I don't want to face the impermanence of everything I care about. I just want to watch Frozen again for the umpteenth time and be entertained, right? That's your inner 4-year-old just whining to be entertained. So if you're bored, then that means you're getting somewhere, right? You're on the path. You need to just keep going, right? Boredom is like, if you know anything about psychotherapy, like Freudian kind of psychotherapy thing, right? Boredom is like resistance in psychotherapy. That's an important kind of method that psychotherapists use. Find the thing that the person is fighting to protect, because that's where you need to go, right? That's the thing that the person most needs to talk about if they're sort of fighting and resisting to protect it. Find the path of most resistance, right? Boredom, when we're meditating, is kind of like that. Boredom is a product of the immature mind, the immature part of the mind, the part that doesn't want to deal with reality, right? So noticing the boredom and what the boredom's about directs us to exactly the place where the mind needs to go when we're meditating. That's exactly the thing that we need to work on. We need to steer into the boredom, right? Steer into the boredom. It's like a skid when you're driving on ice, right? Steer into the boredom. That's the thing you've got to pass through, right? And then when you come out on the other side of that boredom, that's when the 4-year-old's taking a nap, right? The 4-year-old in your mind shuts up, all right? And that's where you can find some clarity. That's where sort of encountering reality really starts, is when you can get beyond that point, get past that boredom. This is the reason why retreat practice is beneficial, right? Meditating every day, even every day, 15, 20 minutes, that's good. You should do that. That helps. That's important. But by the time you start again the next day, the movie's almost completely rewound. You're right back to the opening credits, and you're going to have to rewatch the same freaking movie over again, right? Because it's just sort of worked its way back the whole time. But in a retreat kind of setting, even just the mini retreats that we do here, which are like 3 hours long, that's enough time to kind of let that movie roll further, right? Until maybe it does just become background noise, or better still, especially in the context of an even longer retreat, over a few days or weeks, right? You can play that movie all the way to the end, and then you've just got light at the end. Or better still, you play that movie and play that movie and play that movie. And I'm dating myself with this reference. This is going to make sense to Brody at all. You play that movie until it just snaps, right? You literally snap the film. Remember when movies were filmed? Of course you don't. You're an infant. You just play that movie until you wear right through it, and you snap the film, and then what happens? It's just light, right? It's just light when you get to that point. Then that's when understanding, maybe even we could say awakening, the light that was there all along, right? The light was always there. It was just colored and distorted by the movie, and you couldn't see it clearly, right? That's what Cohen means when he says, discover that your personality is fed up with you, right? Abandon the movie. It was just a con you've been pulling on yourself the whole time anyway. So boredom is good. You should make it your friend, right? To borrow from a recent PNC Bank commercial, boring is the jumping off point for all the unboring things we do. Have you seen that commercial? It's kind of a hokey commercial. Boring is the long, straight stretch in the path, where it's just sort of going along and along, like driving the interstate through Kansas. It's just going along and along. It seems like it's the same thing the whole time. But up ahead somewhere, just out of sight, there's going to be a turn. And around that turn, there's truth. Right around that turn, there's insight. So to paraphrase that commercial again, Buddhism, brilliantly boring since about 500 CE. Right? That's how long we've been at this thing. Last week I made an off-the-cuff comment about how meditation's not a math problem. I don't know where it came from. It just kind of popped into my head. Meditation's not a math problem. But it's true. Meditation's not a math problem. In a few different ways, meditation's not a math problem. One way it's not a math problem is, presumably, if Gong Hei were here, she could confirm this as a mathematician. Presumably, almost all the time, a math problem has an answer, right? With an objective way to get it, right? And there's a specific way to solve the problem, and if you solve the problem correctly, you get to the kind of objectively right answer. Meditation's not like that. But another way it's not a math problem is that when you're working a math problem, someone else can come and kind of look over your shoulder and check your work, right? Because they can see, you didn't carry the 3 or whatever. They can check your work. I can certainly kind of look at the external form of your posture, but that's not very helpful, other than maybe trying to help you avoid like ripping a tendon or getting a crick in your neck. But that's in terms of what's happening inside. That's not terribly helpful. The external form is just there to support the private internal experience that meditation is, right? Because that's what it is. Meditation is a private internal experience. In that sense, it's like a dream, right? Meditation is like a dream in that sense. You wake up in the morning, you kind of remember a dream, right? You try to tell it to someone else and try to describe, well, this happened and that happened and I was in this place and this person. And you can never really find the right words, right? I'm trying to recreate this experience in words, and it's just not happening. We can't share the experience of the dream. We can just kind of report some fragments of it as we remember and understand them. Similarly, when meditation, the meditative experience, it's pretty ineffable. It's pretty hard to turn into words. It's pretty hard to describe it. And when we try to, it's inadequate. We find that words don't really get the job done. So that makes it hard to kind of share with someone else what's happening in here when you're meditating, that they can try to work with you on that. We can do some things, but it's difficult. You can think about the cushion. The cushion when we're meditating, this is an island, right? We're on an island. You're on your island, I'm on my island. There's no bridge between the islands. There's no ferry that runs between the islands. I've been on my island a little longer. I can sort of yell some things over to you that might be helpful, right? Might be useful. We can, learn from accounts of those who mastered life on the islands before us. But ultimately, we kind of have to manage our island for ourselves, right? We have to manage our mind for ourselves. That's pretty much true of most things in life, but so this really isn't any different. If you want to cross to the other shore, then you got to build your own boat, right? The Buddha Dharma, I guess it's a little bit like IKEA, maybe. The Buddha Dharma gives us the parts and the instructions, but we still have to put together ourselves. Right? So we're working here on managing our own minds, and we can support each other in doing it. We can help each other out. We can discuss some things. We can share some advice. But ultimately, no one else can climb inside. Life is not being John Malkovich. If you've ever seen the movie Being John Malkovich, when you could climb inside somebody else's head and kind of watch the world out their eyes. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. We have to work on our mind ourselves. And hopefully, the Buddha Dharma gives us a container, gives us a set of principles that we can use to help us figure out how we can do that most effectively, to have a mind that functions for us and helps us to understand ourselves, understand our place in the world, be a better person, all of those kinds of things. Sangbola Shipshio, may you and all beings manifest enlightenment.